I know
Uh-huh.
you've had to pitch Werewolves Within, the story just as yourself as a director, but I'm wondering, what might it sound like if Jason Bateman had to pitch Werewolves Within? I'm just wondering if that's something that you could give the people real quick.
If Jason Bateman had to pitch Werewolves, then he'd probably sound like, well, I would probably shoot it like The Outsider, and a bunch of people be holed up in a house, much like the Blues. But there'd be something terrorizing the residents in the dark.
What would it sound like if Jeff Bridges was listening to the pitch of Werewolves Within?
What would he say? He'd probably be like, yeah, man. Well, it'd probably be a lot of fun to smoke a J and watch it. And then he would shoot a photo with his Nikon.
Werewolves Within opens in theaters this Friday before being available to rent. I mean, how does that feel that movie theaters are opening, that this movie is going to be able to be seen in a movie theater?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Scare Me, my first feature was gonna have like a week at the Alamo or something, and then the pandemic happened. I'm kind of overwhelmed, and yet it still doesn't feel real. Like Tribeca, even though it happened this week, it's still, or just last week, it still doesn't feel real to me, or doesn't feel quite like it actually happened. Yeah, I have no idea what to expect after Friday. I just hope that people bring their buddies and go see it. It's for that perfect demographic of buddies, folks like us to like bring friends, share a flask. I don't know. I didn't suggest it. And like
No.
go for the ride.
You've been working in the world of comedy for like so long, for your whole life. You've written, produced, acted, directed like hundreds, thousands, I don't know, of skits and
Yeah.
videos. How does this movie, your second feature film, feel after having made so much contributed to comedy in so many different ways? I mean, I imagine that this movie is like a really big milestone, right?
It actually, yeah, as someone who's like an empath who puts a lot of people's feelings before his own, I have gotten my ass kicked getting here. This was not handed to me. None of these opportunities. And so I've never phrased it this way, but it feels earned. It actually feels like I've earned getting to this place, which is a wonderful feeling because it's been a long road. It'll continue to be a long road after Friday the 25th when the movie comes out. But to have really known that I like climbed this ladder and slipped a little bit and hit my chin and chipped my tooth a little bit on the way, up to where we are. I'm I feel really satisfied, but also sort of, excited to dig my heels in and double down if given the opportunity.
I mean, your career goes back pretty far. I mean, all the way to College Humor, which is like where I
Mm,
first discovered you and a whole bunch of
mm.
other like comedic talent. Can you talk about how did you get involved with College Humor and what has that impact been like today? I mean, there's still people who are just like diehard fans of that group, and like, how did that set you up on this path that you've been on?
That's a great question. I founded a sketch group ages ago called Dutch West, and we basically pooled together couch change to buy a camera, a DBX 100, years and years ago, back when like Homestar Runner was a thing and Whitest Kids You Know was a thing, and the Post Show for anyone who knows that, and Derek Comedy, where Donald
Yeah.
Glover started out. And we just started making videos to try and get an agent, try and have acting careers. And what happened was we ended up learning production by sort of entering the industry through the back door that way. And College Humor took a liking to or notice of what we were doing. We were self-generating, just kind of making stuff to put it out there, and we started to make a bit of a splash. And College Humor basically said, why don't you come do for us what you've been doing for yourselves, but like actually have a paycheck, actually have a
Oh,
salary. And I was so resistant to it because I wanted to be like a garage band, like comedian, like, the dudes in the state or something,
yeah.
and go on the road and like live, like borderline poverty, and like but also make people laugh. And it turned into a 7-year gig. I I amassed a 401k. I, got to shoot and direct and star and write thousands of sketches. The funny thing is, my life lesson advice to people for how to get to where I am is always like, find your tribe and find your troop. That's what happened when I founded Dutch West. And because of that, I had funds that I cashed out recklessly. Having worked at College Humor for 7 years, I took some of the funds out of my 401k as starter cash for my first feature. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been given the opportunity to make Werewolves. So my advice continues to be like, find your people, and College Humor, that was my people after my people were, Sam Reich and Elaine Carroll and the rest of them.
Did you study at any specific comedy or acting school or classes? And if so, I'm curious, like, I know that there are different improv schools that have different philosophies of comedy. Some are more character or like follow the funny. Is there anything that, so did you study at a specific school? And also, do you have like a philosophy of your own comedy? Is that even something that you've been able to like, turn inward and reflect on? Like, oh, I guess this is what I find funny, or this is my philosophy, as it were.
Hell yeah. I mean, Kathy Hendrickson, one of my acting teachers back at the New Actors Workshop, which was the acting school that I went to as a teenager, as a 2-year acting program in New York City, founded by Mike Nichols and Paul Stills and Paul Stills' mother is Viola Spolin, the founder of Theater Games, and George Morrison. Kathy Hendrickson was one to say, I think what Mike Nichols had sort of imparted to her, a piece of advice that was, don't get caught trying to be funny. And that is not something I articulated before I went to school there as an inherently funny kid. It's something that I sort of abide by in terms of like a philosophy and a mission.
One of the other facets of your comedy is, I would have to bring up your Instagram, which is, I'm a follower, you have tons of followers. Your Instagram is just prime gold that you deliver, for the people. Just it's amazing. So I would be curious if you would entertain me in this next question, Mr. Josh Ruben, because I know you've had to pitch Werewolves Within, the story just as yourself as a director. You probably know that, log line like the back of your hand, but I'm wondering, what might it sound like if Jason Bateman had to pitch Werewolves Within? I'm just wondering if that's something that you could give the people real quick.
If Jason Bateman had to pitch Werewolves Within, he'd probably sound like, well, I would probably shoot it like The Outsider, and a bunch of people be holed up in a house, much like the Blues, but there'd be something terrorizing the residents in the dark.
Incredible. This is a 2-part question, and I thank you for this in advance. What would it sound like if Jeff Bridges was listening to the pitch of Werewolves Within? Might you have an idea of what that could sound like?
What would he sound? He'd probably be like, yeah, man. Well, it'd probably be a lot of fun to, smoke a J and watch it. And then he would shoot a photo with his Nikon.
Do impersonations, that's something that like you're doing just like walking around here and there in your house, and just comes to you like that release as far as impersonations that you're able to do so well?
I guess pretty often I'm, often talking to myself, in different voices. And that's like how I, find those and mimic. I was always a mimic kid. I'd always like, find myself sort of copying kids' tics and phrases and the like, sometimes involuntarily. I didn't quite notice that I was doing it. And then, a lot of time alone and living alone is, I lived in the city. I moved there, by myself when I was 18. So just like to, live by myself and talk to myself, and self-soothe by, talking to myself in ridiculous voices and singing songs and the like. I think that just kind of blew out my imagination.
Do you have any like specific funny comedy heroes?
I mean, Robin Williams and John Leguizamo, I think they were integral for me. I love the fact that here are two dramatic actors that could also do one person shows. I thought that was just the most phenomenal thing ever, and the Robin Williams winning an EGOT, John Leguizamo being able to like pull tears and bring such an emotional depth. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg too, such an emotional depth to their characters to play on a spectrum of ridiculous to kind of grounded and beautiful. That's the kind of stuff I love. In another life, or maybe in a like way later chapter of my life, I would love to maybe explore what a one person show would be, and just kind of have that be it at the smallest black box theater in a cafe upstairs somewhere, or somewhere more substantial.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now that we're bringing this into existence, this has got to happen. One more question. What do you think Rami Malek would tell people if he was to say, go see Werewolves Within? How would he
Oh my God, this is a tough one. Go see Werewolves Within in the theater. Oh, get some popcorn. I don't know. It's the strangest, most subtle, but yeah, I'm go see some.
It is.
It's basically me doing a Joaquin Phoenix. It's just basically doing the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but with a lazy eye, which I do have. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Congrats again, and I'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's great.